As I said, if you're watching this on Twitter, make sure you come over to the YouTube channel, subscribe, hit that like button, and support us. We're going to try to bring this on a regular basis. We're going to try to bring this on a regular time, regular slot, and that's the only way we can build our relationship with the community and with you guys. And we're going to talk all things Liverpool, basically. And let's get stuck in, Mikey. Let's talk about the topical things. And topical things, I guess, right now is probably the Robertson news, maybe. Everything else we kind of know. We knew players were going to come in. We knew probably the players that are going to leave, the likes of Chiesa, the likes of Nunez. The Robertson one's a bit of a bombshell. How do you feel about Robertson possibly going?
It's a bit of a surprise, I suppose, because I think when we were all hypothesizing on how the season would go, the summer would go, a lot of us all went to Tsimikas. We felt Tsimikas would leave, Robertson would take a step back, Kirkes would come in and he would start. But I think a lot of us probably didn't take into consideration, and I mean this as a compliment, but when you've been one of the best in the world, there's a certain ego that comes with that. I don't mean ego as an insult. I look at Jordan Henderson, for example. Now, regardless of your thoughts on Jordan Henderson, when Jordan Henderson was pretty much told, not just by the world, but by Klopp himself, you're not going to be essential next year in the starting 11. You can go back further, name a bigger player. When Gerrard was told by Rodgers, rightfully or wrongly so, listen, next season, you're not going to be the player that's starting week in, week out. When players are told this, regardless of where they are in their career, if they have once been at their peak, they will not look and say, yeah, I see your side. They're going to say, listen, I can recapture that form. I feel like I can still deliver. I feel like I can still bring it, rightly or wrongly. And I think Robertson's got a bit of a trippier scenario here. Diego Simeone at Atletico Madrid is a bit of a habit of bringing the best out of his defenders, not so much his attackers, but he knows how to bring the best out of his defenders, especially his fullbacks. Trippier's not the only one that comes to mind there. I just can't pronounce half the names, but Azpilicueta is another good example as well. But I think Robertson's got the opportunity here to go to Spain, go to a title-challenging, at least trophy-challenging team, and be an essential part of that for another 2-3 years, probably extending his career a bit more as well. I do think he'd be under probably less scrutiny in Spain than he would over here. So listen, I fully understand the move from his perspective. I'm not going to get into the whole agent debacle that I think a few people have kind of run the narrative with, because I tell you why. I think it's very easy to cast the same sort of cloth over every player and say this is the reason why they're saying these things, or why the media are saying these things. But I haven't really seen anything that suggests to me, other than the what I think is a pretty baseless rumor of trying to get a free agency. Maybe that came from somewhere, I don't know. But it's one of those, I think now's a great time. If you can recoup the fee we paid for him, maybe some more if you can, it's a great deal. You shake hands and you go. I'm gutted to see him go.
Yeah.
But I'm gutted to see him go in the same way your first car that you adore, and even though it's time to upgrade, the tires ain't working, the engine's faulty, it's time to move on. And it's best for all parties. The only thing I'd say on Robbo is that he deserves the reception. He deserves the four corners of the stadium standing on their feet and showing him the love 100%. That he deserves. That's what he deserves, and it's a shame that he won't get that. But I do think for him and the club, it is a good time to part.
I'm going to get all your opinions, Lou, but I don't think I could have put it much better than how Mikey's put it. I mean, the analogy about the car, it is true. It's like, it's not, what it's not where it was when you bought it, and it's there. But and I agree with the recognition of this absolute legend. I don't think we don't need to ask each other, was your legend?
No, we know he is.
You're stupid. Yeah, that's a stupid question to ask, and I'm not here to ask stupid questions. I'm not here to give stupid opinions, but not ask stupid questions. Robertson, I want to ask you, Lou, though. I know we're showing ruthlessness in terms of outs and ins and showing a total different dynamic to the way we're operating. But can we flex our muscles a little bit and say, no, you're not going to Robertson? Or does he deserve, what he wants to do because he's been so amazing for us, so good for us? It's very different from the Trent scenario, right? Let's make that clear.
Mate, Andrew Robertson is a player who I don't think gets the respect and adulation that he deserves, based on the fact that the past couple seasons have been poor. They've been below standard, and we can see that, like, there's a difference between rose-tinted glasses and just blatant naivety, not wanting to see what's in front of you. We can all see that Robertson's dipping. That's not like he struggled against Dibbling, Madueke, Saka, Cunha at one point this season. You can see he's on the decline, but is selling him for £5 to £10 million worth what you're losing in that dressing room? You are losing someone who is the epitome of would die for this club, would wears his heart on his sleeve, and is willing to give everything 100% of the time. Trent gave 100% in training. My balls. Andrew Robertson is the true epitome of giving your all for this club in every single match and every single training session from day dot to now. And I think Milos Kerkez coming into this club, there is so much you can learn from someone like Andrew Robertson. He's not the fastest player anymore. He's not the most defensively astute. He's not the best passer of the ball like he used to be. You could argue Tsimikas is actually a better creator nowadays than Andrew Robertson, both on stats and on the eye. But he's a leader who's won every possible trophy bar the Europa League. He is a character. He's charismatic. He's energetic. And if you're Kerkez coming into this team, who are you going to learn more from? Kostas Tsimikas or Andrew Robertson, Scotland's captain, who's been in both Premier League title-winning teams, number 6, number 11, number 10. He's been in all of it. And I understand that we should probably cash in. But at the same time, I completely agree with Mike. He deserves that. Jorginho Wijnaldum, Bobby Firmino. If Naby Keita got the applause and reception that he did,
Big up
Andrew
Naby.
Robertson deserves it. Like they all, he deserves.
Lad, in another world, Naby put that top corner in the final, and we just sing his name every time we say it. But it is what it is. Luke, can I ask you something? Sorry, can I ask you something about that, Robert thing? Because you're saying the leadership in the dressing room and how it can't be replaced. Listen, you look back at some players that have left. That energy has not been kept for, Henderson, for example. I'm not here to defend or say anything else. But why is it that the fans, you think, would prefer Robbo to stay than leave? Because I don't necessarily believe that it would be best for the club and for him to stay. I agree with the leadership, and selfishly, I want him to stay. But I don't actually think in the broader scope it would actually be the betterment. Because you say about learning off, who's the man to his right? It's Virgil van Dijk. What is it specifically you think that that we would gain from keeping him versus what we'd lose? I just out of curiosity.
This is the thing. I can see both sides, and to be honest, I think, look, I'm a very passionate fan, and I think a lot of my opinion is based on rose-tinted spectacles and observing a player who we've watched grow from this young lad, £8 million signing from Hull to now. I just think if you've got you've got a change in the guard coming here. You've just lost Trent. Van Dijk's not going to be around forever. Sal's not going to be around forever. I just want to keep the core leadership group in during this transition phase, because we are still technically in a transition phase. We are still bringing in new lads. And I think that Robertson can still contribute. He's had bad games, but he does have good matches in the top 12% for progressive passes of fullbacks, crosses into the box, shot creating actions, expected assists. There is still a key player there. And while I understand that it probably is rose-tinted glasses and just a resistance to change, I just think you've got a Kostas Tsimikas who's already reached his peak, who you're not going to recruit a huge amount of money for, compared to Andrew Robertson, who, he's slightly on the decline, but I think is just as good as Tsimikas. And
do you think, Lou? Do you? So I'm sorry, I keep cutting this off, and Grizz is going to kick me out in a minute. But no, this goes, to be honest, this goes to Mo 1 and Mo 2 as well. Sorry, I forgot Scouse Mo's name. I've got what Scouse Mo, was it? Scouse.
Let's run with Scouse Mo.
Scouse Mo.
Scouse Mo and Welsh Mo. We'll go with that.
Yes, there you go. Scouse Mo and Welsh Mo. Easy. Look at that, boy. Actually, I'll put this to you two, and then you guys can run with it if you want. But do you think Robbo could be one of those types of players? Because I remember Rio Ferdinand's a good example of this, where you've got a legend, absolute legendary footballer, but great footballers don't often make the best impacts off the bench. There are some players that you need to start versus players that they don't necessarily work coming off the bench.
You know what it is? I think both of you make very valid points. In terms of like from a fan's perspective, I don't think anyone was expecting Robertson to leave this summer. We all knew that we needed a new left back because, let's be honest, Robertson wasn't the best last season, and Keke's links have been going on now for like the last before we even won the league. So it's refreshing that we're getting that left back and we're getting in Keke's. But if we look at Keke's, he played every single game in the Premier League last season, all 38. But is there any evidence that he can play 2 games a week? That's the first thing, because that's what we're going to need, 2 to 3 games a week. And then we'll probably need an understudy for someone who's 21 years old. And do you want to have someone who's an understudy like a Robertson or like a Tsimikas? And we both know, like, in terms of what you have both mentioned already, Robertson brings so much more to the squad in terms of his leadership, in terms of the actual, like, being that voice within the changing rooms, within the locker rooms. But then at the same time, if you look from the club's perspective, he is one of the highest earners at the club. He's earning like circa 150 a week, something like that. He's one of the highest earners. So for a backup left back to be on 150k a week,
steep.
It's steep. It's very, very steep. And then you also look at Robertson. From what we've learned over the years, we've learned that he is an absolute mentality monster. And would he be comfortable with sitting on the bench? Or would he take this opportunity to play with one of the best managers in the world, play for a team whereby he's got a good opportunity to win the La Liga, potentially win Champions League or go far in the Champions League and be a vital figure in that team? If I'm not mistaken, I don't think Atletico Madrid have a very good left back at the moment.
They haven't. They haven't got a left back at all at the moment. Aspinall has been released. Yeah. They've sold their left back. I can't remember his name.
Or something. He was a left back, but they've got Javi Galán at the moment, and I've seen him a couple of times. He's not the best. And then Robertson going over there, 31 years old, playing for Simeone. He's not going to expect him to be bombing up and down the left wing all day. Yeah. He can probably get a few more years out of his career as well, playing at Atletico Madrid. From Robertson's perspective, it makes so much sense. From Liverpool's perspective, in certain parts, it makes sense. You're saving a lot of money in terms of like how much wage. But then on the flip side of that, you're missing out on that experience. Somebody who's won 2 Premier League, somebody who's won the Champions League, somebody who's won the FA Cup and the Ireland Cup 2 times. That amount of experience you can't get rid of. And then on top of that, the way it's looking this summer, it seems like there's going to be so many outgoings, so many considerable outgoings. Yeah. And adding Robertson to that as well, it's basically stripping the whole team. So that certain things do worry me and concern me about it. If you ask me personally, would I keep Robertson? 1,000,000% without a shadow of a doubt. But no, from what we've learned from Robertson over the years and knowing what kind of a player he is, I don't think he'll be happy just holding bench and coming in when Keke's needs to rest.
Well, Shmo, I'm going to come to you, and Mike's asked a very good question in terms of, what does he bring? Like, why do you guys want to keep him? And I don't think he was suggesting it's his opinion, but he's just saying it's an opinion. Where are you with this? Like, Robertson, keeping him for the experience, one of the leader, very few leaders left in that circle. Sort of, we had that leadership group. Yeah. It's dwindling. It's dwindling if Robertson leaves as well, as seems likely. Or are you going to be ruthless and cold and think about Liverpool and Liverpool only and say, you're staying, Robertson, we're not letting you go? Because he is an absolute loyal soldier. How do you deal with the situation?
I would let Andy pick what he wants to do. I think he's deserved that. And if he turns around and says, look, I've come to the point where, going back to Mike's original point, I think he is a rhythm player. And the last couple of years, it shows that when he's had the odd niggle or two, it's always taken him 2 or 3 games to get back into the flow of things. So I think to be consistent for a Liverpool left back, you need to be playing every game. And obviously he's not going to get that with Keke's there. So, great points made by all already. Again, the salary is another point as well. I think with Tsimikas being on 75 and Robbo on 150, 160, it just makes, sense.
No-brainer.
It is a no-brainer. You're saving a lot of money there as well. Look, he's going to leave as a Liverpool legend. There's no doubt about it. I think everyone, gives our blessing for that. I think what's got people's humps up a little bit is the Atletico Madrid link and who the agent is involved in all of this. And that's, I think, what people are getting blindsided by a little bit. But, I think from Robbo's point of view, it's a World Cup year coming. Like one of your... came up on a chat earlier. I think that's a valid point as well. But I would let him decide, and I think either way, I think we benefit as a club. A lot of people say, look, yes, we're going to lose experience, but there's still experience there. Another thing you need to think about is, yes, we're going to lose someone in the dressing room, but we've just gained someone in the dressing room in Frimpong. Yeah. So if like I'm just throwing it out there. Keeping Andy Robertson, will I keep someone like Frimpong in his shell a little bit, because there's someone senior than him? No, let them flourish. Let them be who they
You want new leaders to grow. You want
exactly.
new characters.
We got Ali, we got Virgil van Dijk, we've got Mo. Okay, there's leaders there already throughout the spine of the team. Let's create some new leaders. At the end of the day, we got to also lose the tag. Well, I think Slot wants to lose the tag of this is Klopp's team. That he's won it with. He's inherited Klopp's team.
Yeah,
give him a chance. Let him have a clean slate. He's obviously. With the players coming in, it's going to be refreshing to see what's going to happen.
Robertson I think the problem he's had is we've been overly reliant on him for a good few years now. He's ran himself into the ground. My argument also stems from, I just think Kostas, we've seen best of him, and his best is solid. I think he'd get into a good number of Premier League teams, but I think an Andrew Robertson who has his minutes managed, if it's what he wants, I understand that this is just me dreaming and that's what I do best, but I think him having his minutes managed with a more able left back who can probably take over the main responsibility as the starter, I would trust an Andrew Robertson in a big Champions League game to come in. I would trust him against a team like a Tottenham who are going to go gung-ho, maybe not anymore than Thomas Frank as such, but he's got that. I'd trust him in a Man United game, those kind of gritty derbies where you need someone with his fight or flight response, and there's no flight. I trust him more than I would a Tsimikas. I don't ever look at him and think, you've had a great game there. Can't recall many instances where I've seen him get above a 7 out of 10. And the same's been said to Robertson for the past few years. I completely understand it. But I just think there's a bit more to him, and losing him for a nominal fee is just... I just can't see much justification for myself personally, but I can see the negatives of keeping them at the exact same time. There's no right or wrong with this.
Just to add to what Lou was saying there, we're looking at this from a perspective of one of the two will stay, Robertson or Tsimikas.
What happens if both go?
There could be a case that both of them go, honestly.
I prefer if both go. Is that mad? Is that wild?
Quite a long time now, we've been under the impression that Tsimikas will leave. Every summer, we always think Tsimikas, this is his last summer. He's definitely this summer.
What if both go and Hato comes in, for example?
Say that again?
What if both go and someone like Gerard Hato comes in?
If they both go, it's just...
But this is my point, guys. But this is my point. This is look. I know it's wild season and it's transfer season, and we've been starved of transfers, and we love it. The hype, the excitement, transfers. But is there an element of too much change? Guys?
That's what I was about to say to you, Grizz. I love transfers. Don't get me wrong, but I'm a little bit concerned. It's a team that's just won the Premier League. And it looks like we're stripping the whole team and starting afresh. But the thing is, there's actually a case study out there with Onslaught.
You beat me to it. I was going to cut you off and say it. Go on.
Yeah, in his first season, when they got to the Conference League final, which is a huge achievement for Feyenoord.
Absolutely.
Narrowly at the end to Jose Mourinho's Roma. But that summer, he got rid of so many players and brought in a whole heap of players, and then goes on to win Feyenoord's first Eredivisie for a decade or something like that. For a very long time, it was the first.
I hear you, but I hear both of you because Michael's going to bring it up as well. That's fine. That's fine. It's Liverpool, man. This is Liverpool, and we're up against.
It looks like it's already happening.
But then, if you want a Prem example,
Robertson's got. We can go through the list of how many players potentially could be gone, or they've got a question mark on them. Robertson, Tsimikas, Keller has gone. Konate's going into his last season of his contract. No contract's been signed just yet. We don't know whether Endo will stay. Luis Diaz, there's been links. Nunes, there's been links. Jota,
it's mad, guys.
Crazy.
It's actually mad.
Could I ask something here, just to give Robbo his due? And I'm not going to ask the question, is he a legend? Because we know he's a legend. But I was just having a thought. I'm of a firm belief Ashley Cole's the best left back the Premier League has ever seen, probably will ever see, right? Just as I started getting into football, Ashley Cole was a fullback I seen, and I thought, that's the one. You're not going to beat that. Is Robertson in the conversation to be second? Right?
He's second.
Well, the other argument would be Dennis Irwin, to give credit. Like Dennis Irwin was, just to give a broader scope, like Dennis Irwin would be the argument. I'm going to say we're probably going to go 5 out of 5 here in saying that Robertson does come above Dennis Irwin. In terms of legacy, in terms of what he's leaving in the Prem, in terms of impact.
I'm definitely the oldest on this panel, and I can say I saw Dennis Irwin in his prime play. And that's a great shot. That's a great shout. Dennis Irwin was your ultimate 7 out of 10
Every week.
for the majority of this season. But Robertson, I believe, and I don't want to dwell on my opinions too much. I want to get your thoughts, guys. Robertson has given Dennis Irwin would very rarely give you a 9/10 out of 10. I believe Robertson has given performances where you think, wow, like stunning performances from left back as well. Like, he's been up and down quality of assists. And obviously it's very easy to just remember the last 12 months, 18 months. But you got to remember the energy and style that he's played in, right? In a Klopp team, it's totally different, guys. 100%. Dennis Irwin was a conservative set-piece master, penalty taker, free kick taker. But the energetic style of Robertson is completely different. But look, moving on from Robertson, guys, I think we're all mixed. I don't get a sense of someone having one defined opinion. I think we're all kind of easily swayed. Like, if someone makes a comment, we're saying, yeah, I get that. And then we're saying, but, and then, yeah, I get that. But what does it mean for Tsimikas then, guys? And I'll come to you, Welshmo, first. What does it mean for Tsimikas? What are you doing with Tsimikas? Let's just assume for now, Robertson decides to go.
I would upgrade on Tsimikas as well. And I know I know there's a point that everyone's going on about what is too much, okay? And I get that. However, if you break it down, when we're not actually selling, we're only, if we were to believe what we're going to sell,
first team is you can talk about.
Probably two. Potentially Diaz and potentially Nunes. But Nunes really, it's a 50-50 starter. So if we deep it really, yes, we're going to potentially linked with a lot of sales, but the sales we're doing are mainly bench players. And the way I look at it we're upgrading our bench now. With the odd, maybe the odd striker going to be changed, okay? Now, the core of the team, that back four, the midfield, Salah, Gakpo, is still there, So I kind of disagree with people saying, oh, it's too many signs. I think what Slot's understood, Slot rarely changed his 11. He rarely rotated as well. So I think he's kind of knows his fixed 11. He's going to sprinkle a bit of magic now with Wirtz, and, we can get onto that way he's going to play. But I genuinely think there's going to be about 6 out, 5 in my opinion. And that 5 in is going to be probably 2 first teamers, 3 bench upgrades.
That's a great point, though, because he didn't. I mean, I'll come to you, Luke.
Sorry.
Because Slot didn't trust his squad enough, did he?
It
was the same 14/15 players pretty much every week. And if we're changing or if we're improving the squad quality, then maybe we should be as ruthless as it seems like we seemingly are. Are you okay with that then, in terms of that many changes?
I am, yeah, definitely.
Within reason, I don't think we can particularly. I don't want to do a Chelsea here and completely gut the squad and bring in about 50. But the answer that we're looking for could be internal. If you want an example, we've just had Conor Bradley step up majorly. We've got Owen Beck still at this club.
I love Owen Beck,
one of the most promising left backs.
I love Owen Beck, by the way. But apparently he's been injured a lot.
He has, but so was Conor Bradley. He's had his knocks as well. I mean, we do have viable options there. And as much as I do enjoy seeing big signings, and obviously we'll get to that, and bringing in lots of players that we need, this can't become a Chelsea situation where we're going to go out and spend X amount of money on like 15 players. But the difference is, if we did do that, I have full faith in everything behind the scenes, the way it's been, that those 15 players would come in and 14, maybe, or 15 of them would be successes because the track record's so good.
Mike, the final contentious decision that we need to make, I feel, in terms of outgoings, I think the rest pick themselves. But we're fine with that. Right, guys. I think one of Kwanzaa or Gomez will go. Now, how do we deal with this scenario? And what's your thoughts on Kwanzaa or Gomez? Look at the age, look at the profile, look at the wages, look at everything else, injury situation, whatever you want to look into, and give me a call, man. Give me a call. Mike, go with you first.
Okay, sweet. I tell you what, he switched it up on me. He's just saying I'll handle it on my feet. Okay. Listen, what I'd say with this is Gomez was obviously a little bit stunted in his relationship with Liverpool last season when we tried to use him in a negotiation with Gordon. We offered him to Newcastle. He was unaware of this. That obviously affected him, and then he started to deliberate his future with Liverpool. He ultimately decided to stay with the club. That's very important. He prioritized the club. I think if he were to go for a large fee, it would have been last summer for Gomez. The question with Gomez is fitness. It's always been fitness. When he's fit, he's one of the best. He's durable. I say durable. Sorry, he's a multi-useful asset for the club. Kwanzaa, on the other hand, is kind of on the other side of the spectrum. His price tag comes from his age rather than his quality. I think Kwanzaa is good. I have yet to see him really hit a fantastic ceiling or have an outstanding game. I think he's had an outstanding game for his lack of experience. If that makes sense. You know, when you see a young player come on the scene and play well, he's had a good game for that, but I wouldn't say he's necessarily had a good game for a Liverpool centre-back. If I'm to cash in on either one of them, I'm probably going to utilize Kwanzaa in a deal for a player rather than Gomez. I think Kwanzaa probably has more suitors. I think Liverpool would also be probably more open to moving Kwanzaa on and bringing someone else in. Ultimately, I prefer we kept both and still added. But if we were to have to get rid of one, I'd probably look to move Kwanzaa on. In fact, I would look to see if potentially Newcastle would be interested, because I think his kind of price tag would be 35-40. I think it would be instrumental in bringing down the price of certain players. That's my opinion.
Scouse Mo, same question to you. Choose one or choose both. Both stay, and then we don't need to risk or bring in another centre back, because I think if both stay, I don't think we bring in a centre back.
I didn't get this option.
I mean,
I had to get rid of one.
I just realised there's another option as well. Let's go with the third option.
I think it's quite difficult to disagree with anything Mike's just said. I think he's hit the nail on the head, to be honest. Quite spot on. In terms of Kwanzaa, he's good, but we haven't seen him be great. But he's young. You know, he can still develop, and Slot can improve him. And you never know, in a couple of years, he could be that world-class centre-back. With Gomez, the problem with Gomez is he would be a perfect third-choice centre-back to rotate with Van Dijk and Kanate and give them a rest. But he's just always injured. It's the issue with Gomez. He's just constantly injured, and it's so frustrating. Thing is, if I had to pick one of the two, at least Kwanzaa will actually be able to be fit and be on the bench. And he's young and he could potentially develop. So I would rather get rid of Gomez, as hard as it is for me to say that. But the thing is, if we do get rid of either one, I wouldn't get rid of either. I think we'll just keep both, because I don't think this summer is a summer that we should be rejigging the centre-backs. I think we can think about that next summer. As I've mentioned before, there's a lot of changes happening this summer, and I don't want that. I don't want that to happen at centre-back as well. But if one of them does go, going back to the left-back chat, I think we should bring in somebody who's versatile enough to play left-back and centre-back. And that name that's constantly been linked with us is Gerald Hato. He can play left-back, he can play centre-back. So if one of those two were to leave, succession planning, especially for Virgil as well, if I'm not mistaken, Gerald Hato was a left centre-back. Mm-hmm. And Virgil's not going to be here forever, guys. Sorry to break it to you, but his contract ends now in 2 years' time. If we could bring this, it's going to be a
Mike, before we go to the other two, if I gave you that option again, would you still stick with your option, or would you keep both? And not.
I would keep both, and also just to quickly bounce off Scouse Mo's point. You know, another player who can play left back and also play left centre back, but I guarantee people won't back me on. Gerald Branthwaite from Everton. People won't like that because he plays for Everton. I get that.
No. There's nothing wrong with that. He's for me. Here we go. For me, he's the best young English centre back out there.
That's what I've been saying. I think he's so bro. My best mate's an Evertonian, so maybe he's poisoned my mind a bit. Christ, I look at Gay play midfield and I go, he's not bad. Like, you know what I mean? Like, he's ruined our few football sometimes, having a best mate as an Evertonian. But I do really think Branthwaite would be.
Welshmo, we have the same question to you, man. Kwanzaa and Gomez, or keep both? And there's like Scousemo says maybe look at it in the next window in terms of centre backs. It's because look, I know what you mean, and you made absolute sense when you said, look, we're changing peripheral figures. We're not changing the core of the team, first team members. So we can risk, or we can do that. Where are you with Gomez and Kwanzaa?
I agree with Scousemo. Keep them both if we can, okay? If we can keep them both, the only reason I would sell them is if we can use it to facilitate a deal with Kwanzaa with another player. That's the only reason I would come into question. I would still get rid of Shimikas and go back to Scousemo's option of getting Gerard Hatter in. So you've got the two English boys still there. We've got to also think about the quota for English players. We've got rid of Kelleher. We've got Trent's gone. There's going to be others potentially leaving. We still got to have 8 English homegrown players in the squad. So that's where, going back to Mike's original point, I actually do think we're going to see a lot more youth on the bench as well coming up this year. You know, there's going to be like.
I don't think he does. I don't see. Okay, guys, sorry to interject on this one. Because I totally disagree.
No,
I don't think Slot gives a shit. Gives a shit.
But
I'm going to be blunt.
Same.
You know, Klopp loved all that aspect and that side of academy and youngsters, and give Trent a chance and XYZ a chance, Elliot a chance. Blah. I genuinely think Slot's a different animal, guys. I don't know what you guys think. I don't think he's a shit about the academy and youngsters.
He proved that with James McConnell, how he talked about how amazing he is and how impressed he is with him in training. But then he hardly ever gets a minute.
Yeah, well, you got a point. I do think we'll see Rio this season.
Yeah.
I
mean, he did actually. You're right, because he did give him his chance, but obviously in the what's it called these days? Whatever Cup,
Carabao.
League
Cup he did as well.
League Cup. I mean, but I get your point though, because you're right. He's going to have to promote within as well. Gags in the building. He says Everton rumored to want Doak. We don't want that, do you, Lou?
Unless we can get Branthwaite as a swap.
There, it's lining up, boys. It's lining up.
You've manifested it now, Mike. It's in the air.
I'm manifesting this, bro. Oh my goodness.
Lou, where are you at with the Kwanzaa and Gomez and centre back situation?
Look, I agree with the notion of don't sell either of them if you can, but at the same time, I look at the two options that we've got, and you've got a Joe Gomez who, again, I might sound like a bit of a nostalgia merchant. I love Joe Gomez. He's the only player to have been here pre-Klopp era. But you've got to look at the facts. In terms of his injuries that he's suffered, Joe Gomez is a weird creature of the sense of he doesn't take, none of his injuries are ever little knocks. They're always severe ones that keep him out for a long period of time.
Crippling injuries, yeah.
They're always awful, and he's had that for like his whole career. And I think now, if you're going to cash in on one, Gomez is probably the right time. And I understand that he's incredibly versatile. I love Joe Gomez. But you've got Jarell Quansah, who people have given up on so quickly because he's had one bad season. What we've got to remember is that first season, he overachieved. He was matching levels that no one thought he was going to make. That's what's in him. And he spent his entire youth career building up and learning Klopp's style of play, because that's what they do in the youth academy, so that when you get into the first team, you're able to hit the ground running, and he did that. This is the first time in his senior career, bar Bristol Rovers, where he's had to go through a seismic change of management. And I think one bad season, because it was, to be fair for Quansah, does not justify get rid. He's still incredibly young. He's still a decent backup to have. And I think in matches, maybe not so much this season, but last season in particular, have warranted him being given the opportunity. Gomez, like Scousemo said before perfectly, I would rather a centre-back who's ready-made and available than a centre-back who's never fit enough to play. Joe Gomez hasn't played since December because of injuries. Is that what you want as your backup? Absolutely not. And I think you can get a decent fee for Joe Gomez. If a team like, say, Gahey makes a move somewhere, wink, wink, nudge, nudge, who's to say that Newcastle don't go in for Gomez? Crystal Palace don't go in for Gomez? Who's to say Newcastle don't go in for Gomez? A
Aston
big
Villa
team
previously
could get him in there.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Yeah, good point.
I've agreed. And I actually probably, it seems like me and Lou are probably the only remaining Kwanzaa fans on this planet. I'm still not giving up on Kwanzaa, guys. I get it. I absolutely get it. I'm not blind. We're not stupid. He has had a horrible season. But he's
Chris,
young.
we may be fans, but ultimately, if the gaffer doesn't like you,
Yeah.
and I just get the gut feeling Slot is not sold on Kwanzaa. That's my gut feeling. I don't know if anyone else agrees, but he's had opportunities to come on lots of games this year, where as compared to last year, where Klopp would have brought him on in games and so forth. Slot hasn't. I just got a feeling Slot doesn't fancy him. Even after 45 minutes against Ipswich, he got hooked and he made his mind up then, in my opinion. Slot did.
I think when it was clear to us that Slot doesn't really rate him, I can't remember exactly what game it was, but there was a game when Gomez played centre-back and Kwanzaa played right-back. And that hasn't been for usually.
It was Newcastle away.
Newcastle away.
Yeah.
Typically, normally that would be Kwanzaa centre-back and then Gomez would be right-back. We've talked about Gomez very versatile, can play left-back, right-back. We've even seen him play DM. But then Slot decided to play him as centre-back and put Kwanzaa right back for the first time ever.
Gags is in the building and he says, sell Kwanzaa 35. And I get that, but I can't see us getting 40 million for Kwanzaa.
No, I don't see 40 mil. I don't see 40.
No, I don't.
Would you sell for less? Is it worth pursuing then? If we're getting the maximum, let's say the maximum offer we get for Kwanzaa is 25 million, right? I think it's worth pursuing.
I think it depends on the offer. It depends on the deal you're trying to do, though. So it's I keep going back to the Newcastle one, just because of the way Newcastle are with their money. If you're trying to get Gordon, or even if in a hypothetical one you're trying to get Isaac, they wanted Kwanzaa. We said no last summer, and then we offered Gomez. Their interest in Kwanzaa will not have diminished. No,
absolutely. There's interest in him.
Yeah, listen, we all agree there's interest. It's how you use it. So if we're trying to do that to get Gordon, and we go 25 mil off the price tag for Gordon, suddenly Gordon's worth 40. You go, yeah, I'm fine with that. If you're doing it, I don't believe we'd ever do this one. Don't worry. But if, let's say, Villa were interested in Kwanzaa, and you go Ollie Watkins for 15 mil, then you know what I mean. It's that kind of thing. It gives you a leverage in those deals because there are certain. Yeah, there is a bargaining chip. I'm happy to use Kwanzaa in the same way I'd use Jota. By the way, I'd use Jota as a bargaining chip. These types of players where we're not really going to use them anymore. Elliott, another one, bargaining chip. Players Premier League clubs are interested in. They have a decent value. Liverpool don't want them.
Someone just put a really good comment in the chat about
Van der Berg.
We sold them for 27 million.
Comment as well.
But looking back, shall I tell you something? Shall I tell you something, guys? He's been superb for Brentford.
Yes,
really bigging him up. He's actually showing levels. That, and so
I'm happy for that as well because I like Sepp. He's always seemed like a pretty decent lad. So I'm happy for Sepp Van der Berg.
Would you loan Kwanzaa out to a Premier League club to gain experience?
What would the gain be?
We kept Gomez.
Making problems for yourself. I think at the moment, we probably do need to go centre back sooner rather than later, especially if Konate is going to be going the way he is. But I think you're creating problems by selling or loaning out one of the first teamers or who's in and around the team. Will then have to go out and spend big. And I think if you sell Kwanzaa, at least you're getting a wad of cash that you can use to reinvest on someone else. If you loan them out, you're down one centre back, and you're still going to have to go out and bring someone in.
Just curious.
I mean, if you're selling centre back this summer, it's probably going to be Konate if he doesn't sign a contract, isn't it? So.
I wouldn't even entertain that in terms of. I agree with you that we can't.
That was big.
Giving our players away.
I was just trying to get a reaction. I was going to see how people reacted.
We can't be in the business of giving players away. Absolutely.
If not, you're right, Mike. If he doesn't sign a contract, then yes, we have to sell him.
Hey,